Okay, today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Rather than just tell you about me, I'm going to go ahead and read something for you, something I wrote. I'm actually working on a novel. Semi-autobiographical, I guess, like most first novels. Um, it's just a story about a guy who has lost his way. The tentative title of the novel is Tao of the Lost Soul, and this is chapter number 1. The corner pocket seemed like my kind of place. The paint outside was peeling. Most of the cars in the lot were dented and at least a couple of decades past their prime. Every window in the place was small, situated along the top of the walls and covered with beer signs. The place fairly reeked of the slimy dive I knew I wanted. As I entered through the back door, 4 sets of eyes turned to see me as though I was entering their private den. Of course, this was entirely true. The place was perfect. The back third of the bar was nothing but stacked tables and chairs, mostly broken. A hot dog machine that clearly hadn't been used in several presidential administrations sat at the end of the bar. The people were all caricatures. That did not bother me. I knew I was no more real than the worst of them. The barmaid was tall and lean. Dirty blonde curls fell to her shoulders, which were stooped with years well beyond those she had lived. Not a speck of makeup adorned her face, and her jeans and t-shirt were ratty and looked like they'd been cleaned about once for every 6 times she wore them. A cigarette dangled from her lips, the ash precariously long. This woman clearly did not give a shit. I liked her immediately. The man nearest me was clearly the regular of the regulars. He had the look of a man who hadn't been to any other drinking establishment in anyone's memory. He could have been 40 or 60. He was so bathed in liquor it was impossible to say whether the lack of wrinkles was a result of relative youth or the preservative nature of gins and tonic. His eyes were slits of redness with foggy black spots in the middle. His nose was red and his clothes hung from his body in a way that only the truly miserable can achieve. They looked as though he'd just as soon do without them, but was not allowed in his seat naked. This man hadn't cared about anything but his next drink since anyone could remember. There was a punk at the end of the bar. He didn't have a mohawk or chains around his body. He was a different sort of punk. He was a kid who thought he was going to rule the world someday. In the meantime, he was going to sit in shitty bars and peddle speed to the hookers, truckers, and assorted tweakers who called the corner pocket home. The girl he was with was the sort who gives crack whores a bad name. She was skinny as a rail, white as a ghost, and had the look of a rabid hyena in her eyes. These two could have each other as far as I cared. I had seen them a dozen different places. Hell, I'd been that punk 10 years ago. I had some pity for them, but not a shitload of compassion. These were predators, and I knew right away I might need to let them know in no uncertain terms that I was not prey. The bar ran down my right as I walked in, curved to the wall at the far end by the electronic dartboards. It was clear that this was the sort of place where people sat at the bar. The few tables spread around the place were in awkward spots and seemed to be an afterthought. This was a place for drunks, and I was home. I sat 3 stools down from the regular. The barmaid asked me, "What'll it be, hon?" "Give me a butt, draft, if you got it." "You want a pint or a pint and a half?" she asked, as though these were the normal amounts for draft beer. "What the hell? Give me the big one," I said. "I'm done for the day." She then reached under the bar and produced a huge mason jar, which she placed under the tap. I smiled knowingly. This might be the most drunk-friendly bar in America, I thought to myself. "Why don't you give me a double JD with that?" I said, already knowing I was staying for the night. She set the beer in front of me, noticing the C note I'd already set on the bar. I don't think there was a coaster in the whole place. The beer spilled down the sides, leaving a nice puddle of suds around the base of the jar. As she set the glass of whiskey in front of me, she said $7, though she'd already taken the 100. She came back and counted out my change. I tipped her $2 and told her, "Keep the beer coming as long as there's money on the bar," and then took the whiskey down in one gulp and added, "And set me up with one more of those." Sure thing, she said. Took the last drag off her smoke before dropping it in an ashtray on the bar. She then filled my glass to the rim and asked, "So what's your name, hon?" "Greg." I lied. I never wanted to be found here. This was to be my oasis, my home away from the troubles of the bustling world. In here, everything would be simple. Drink, get drunk, repeat. "So what do you do, Greg?" she politely asked while lighting another smoke. "I sell advertising, Yellow Pages. It pays and I don't have to sit in an office all day long." I answered honestly this time. Always makes a good dose of truth in with your lies. "Nice," she said. "You new to town?" Now, I'd only been in Southern California for about a month. I'd just not found my place yet. I didn't want her thinking I was some recent transplant, though. Nah, I've been living up in Glendora for a while. I just moved down here to Anaheim, though. I took the whiskey down. She poured it full without even asking. "Have a refill on the house. Welcome to Orange County." I stopped liking her and fell in love on the spot. And that's chapter 1. Maybe I'll go to chapter 2 some other day, but that's going to be the installment for today.